Empower your leadership journey with the CEO series. Whether you're at the gym, strolling, or commuting, our impactful dialogues with world-class leaders are just a click away. Immerse yourself in the minds of visionaries shaping today's most influential companies and innovations. It's not just an interview. It's a masterclass in leadership. Don't miss out. Available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and major streaming platforms.
Good morning, good evening, depending upon what part of the world you're in. If it's Friday, it is the CEO series, where we bring together the most distinguished leaders from across the globe to get their insight as it relates to leadership and their career journey. We are honored today to have as our guest Ahmed Al Zarooni, distinguished leader and author across the banking and health insurance industry. With a career spanning decades, he has championed digital transformation and organizational culture evolution. He's an alumnus of Harvard, Oxford Business School, and the University of Wolverhampton. His acclaimed visionary approach is all encapsulated in his book, A Leader's Legacy, which we'll be talking about today. So with that, I want to welcome our esteemed guest. Ahmed, how are you, man?
I'm good, thank you. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
I'm glad to have you. You know, you have an interesting career. You've done so many things, and you decided at some point, so let me take all of that learning and put into a book. So we always like to start the program with how did all this begin from university to where you are today? So give us kind of a snapshot of that.
Okay, so if I wanted to give you a snapshot, I'd say it was a lot of experience, a lot of learning from experiences. I'm a true believer in learning from experiences more than learning from academics. Academics do help, of course, that's the foundation, but experiences, your own experience and other people's experiences, your boss's experiences, books. I love to learn from books. I've read a lot of books. It was a passion, and reading that book, I had gained so much knowledge that I said, okay, it's time for me to spread that knowledge. So what am I supposed to do, and how could I do it? So the best thing or the best idea was to write a book, and that's why the book came out, you could say.
Yeah, a leader's legacy. So you were able to encapsulate all of the things that you had gone through in developing people, being a mentor, and all of that, and put it into this book, which is a bestseller in the region. Um, how did it start? When did that light kick off to say, you know what, I'm going to do a book, and I'm going to take all of the things I've learned, and I'm going to do that book? How did that come into play?
It was that came into play. Actually, it was always like I told you, I read and I have a habit of writing. I learned earlier on that you have to write whatever you want to learn, you need to write it down. So I keep writing it down. I wrote in my books, a lot of books, and then my son used to be sitting with me, and I used to always, speak to him. So then one day my son told me that, okay, Dad, if you are so smart and you keep speaking and you keep teaching me, why don't you write a book? I was like, okay, I said, all right, so you could say that was some way that it started off from that. Then I stopped trying to speak to him and teach him, and then I started on my brother. And then after a while, my brother also got annoyed and said, you know what, Yoda, go and write a book. I was like,
Mm,
okay, so I really should read the book or write a book. And at
yeah,
that point of time, what happened was, while writing, actually, I hit a dead end. And
yeah.
I was like, this is not for me. I can't do it. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna take place. I'm not an author. I don't know any authors. I've never written a book. It's a different skill set. It's not me. And you know what? There's a story. Let me tell you just a story. I was sitting and watching the TV, and it was 60 minutes. It was 60 minutes, and there was an interview of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, where Steve, the person who was interviewing the Sheikh, said, Your Highness, you want the tallest buildings, you want the biggest malls, you want the best infrastructure for your people, you want the best education for your people, you want the best hospitals for your people. Why? So what did Sheikh Mohammed say? He said, why not?
Why not?
Just those two words made
Yep.
me, a different human being. Yeah, why not? Why not? If this is our thought process of our leaders. Why not? And we are blessed to be in a country where we have such compassionate leaders, such visionary leaders. Then why not? Why not follow his footsteps? Since the inspiration comes from him, why not capture that? And that's where I
Mm.
continued and I went on, and alhamdulillah,
And
eventually the book came out and became a bestseller.
it started from there. So to take it offline a little bit because of the flood we had, and then a week later we're going to build the largest airport in the world. And this is one of the things I say about living in the Middle East, because the visionaries, it's like, why not? Why not build the largest airport? And then you got the naysayers coming in saying this and that, the other. The vision is the largest airport in the world, everything digitized, leadership. So in listening to that and going back and you getting your pen and paper and starting it again, why not? And I'm going to create leaders legacy, a leader who creates leaders. Walk me through what you've learned from leaders in, say, the work sector, because you're a big executive in the health industry, the banking industry, mentors that have guided you, and how do you bring all of that together?
Okay, first of all, to bring everything together in a nutshell, I'd say what you need to do or what you need to pick up on upon is the experiences of others. And now sometimes we have negative leaders, we have bad leaders. I wouldn't call them bad leaders because these are strong leaders, they're firm leaders, but they push you so much out of your comfort zone that they actually develop you in a different way. It's all our perspective on how we grasp that, how we take that in. And if we look at it from a different angle, if I'm not going to be challenged and I'm going to be within my comfort zone all the time, I'm never going to grow. Nobody grows from their comfort zone. It's like walking uphill, right? When you walk uphill, you're walking against gravity. You have the oxygen becoming less when you climb a mountain. But climbing that mountain, reaching that top, it's like everything it gets more and more difficult, and you have the people around you, the naysayers, who would always come and say, you know what, why are you doing this? It's not possible. You can't do that. You cannot go forward with this. It's not. Now, for you to listen and give them control over your emotions, this will draw you back. And this, I have a chapter in my book, it's called Anchors and Ladders, where I have clearly mentioned and tried to make sense of it. When anchors, what I mean by anchors is the places, people, and things that hold you back. And sometimes it's good for us to be aware of this. Why? Because sadly, sometimes it's our siblings, it's our children, it could be our spouse, it could be our parents, it could be our colleagues, our best friends. They do not know the damage that they're doing to, nor do you know that until you actually are aware of yourself.
Mm, yes. You know, I saw a documentary online. There was this huge freighter, and that anchor looks to be a small anchor. And I'm thinking, how could that anchor hold it down? So I thought about that when you talked about that, because the friend will say, "Oh, you're just wasting your time," but someone else will say this. And if we pull that in, it drains the energy, it drains the enthusiasm of moving forward.
You're absolutely right. And especially the mind, you see, negativity breeds negativity.
Yeah.
So your environment, the environment that you create, that you are aware of, that's what will take you forward or will take you back. It's like 85% of the time you will think about your environment, the things that's happening within your environment. Now, we do not have the luxury to choose our environment when we are born. But as soon as we are aware of our environment, we do have the luxury to change it, to change our friends, to have our mentors, to make sure we know where we are going, have our purpose, have our goals, and create a plan. Look, the plan could change. Now for me, plans change constantly. Plans change constantly, but the goal remains the same. The goal, it's like playing football. Let's take sports. Yeah, playing football. The goal is same. The goalpost is there. I want to score a goal. Now it depends on how many defenders are in front of me. I might go right. Next time I might go left. I might go back. I might pass the ball. Exactly. But at the end of the day, the goal is to score a goal. So the goal never changes. The plan does.
Yeah. So I do a lot of work in leadership development. So that's called situational awareness. So you may go down and you may skate right through and you score. Next time you got five defenders here, defenders here. How do you navigate that? That's a great metaphor because I don't really like to use metaphors of sports because of the fact a lot of people aren't into it and they may not understand the context of it. But that's a perfect situation because in life, you've got all these stumbling blocks all the time. And the key is navigation. The same way you're talking about, how do I get to that end goal and I'm able to maneuver and do what I've got to do? Is that kind of the same context you're talking about?
Yeah, of course. But to get to that end goal, first you need to have a goal. You see, 95% of human beings, they do not have goals for themselves. And if they do not have it written down.
Yeah.
So you ask somebody, okay, let me put it, it's in my book. I'll say it again, it's in my book. So if we want to travel, say we want to travel, the goal is to travel, right? So we want to travel, we want to go to London. So we have to find out, do I have annual leave? What sort of weather is there? How much is going to cost me? Am I going to fly Emirates or Etihad? Am I going to fly on business class? Am I going to fly economy? Who's going to come with me? Where I'm going to live, commute, eat? When am I going to come back? All this planning for 2 weeks of vacation. Yeah. But when you ask somebody, okay, in this journey called life, what's your plan for yourself? What's
Mm.
your goals? What's your purpose? Most people do not have an answer.
That's a great statement, and it's sad because I talked to a lot of people. I had a call earlier today, and someone was talking about coming to Dubai and getting a job. I said, "Job doing what?" I said, "What is the end goal? How would you want it?" And as I kept asking these questions, they did not have a clue. But the clue was they thought their clue was to come here and just find a job. I said, first of all, it's not that easy. What are you offering? So if you had to counsel, say, college graduates who may have given thought or whatever it is, and they think it's going to be smooth sailing, and I'm going to get this job, and in 3, 4, 5 years I'm going to be here, here, here. How would you bring them back to earth and have a conversation? And say, hey, look, this is life lessons number one, number two. What would that be?
I'd say, first of all, I'd say find your strength. Strength, because we could call it passion. Passion is linked to strength. Why is passion linked to strength? Is because you see somebody who's a natural at playing the guitar, at playing music, whatever. It's not actually natural. It's a lot of training, a lot of practice, but they love doing that, you see. So that becomes their passion. So each one has a strength. You have a passion. Take that one strength that you have, search for the market, search for a niche within the market, see what the need is there, and do the best you can. Read all the books, go to all the seminars, listen to all the wonderful talks like the CEO series, and this is how you become stronger. And the more stronger you get in your particular field, that's where you become a leader over there. It's
Yeah,
but it needs to all start with knowing your strengths.
yeah. One of the statements you mentioned earlier that talking about life's lesson, you say they don't teach that, and they don't teach that at Harvard. They don't teach the lessons you're going to go through, the reality of it. They give you kind of a varnished a varnished version of life, and everything is going to, oh, this is cool. And you get there, like Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until they get hit in the face.
Yeah, but if Mike Tyson is punching you, you're not going to get up. That's for sure. But I'd like to counter that with I say Muhammad Ali Kalai said, fall 7 times and get up eight. You
Yeah.
see, what happens is we as toddlers, as kids, yeah, we fall usually when we want to first start walking, the average child falls 38 times a day. 38 times, but we keep on going and going and going because we are persistent. We are constant. We want to get that. There is right now, our environment is of such that everybody tells us you can do it. So the naysayers around you is not there. But when you reach that college, when you reach, I want to write this book, you can write a book. This is not for you. And stick to what you know. So
Yeah.
you see the naysayers and we allowing them or listening to them, create them as our anchors, and they are the ones who hold us back. And ourselves, self-doubt. Self-doubt is a killer.
Yeah,
We
it
have
is.
around, an average human being has around 6,200 thoughts a day. And
Really.
negativity breeds negativity. Yes. Now, what happens if we speak to ourselves that everything is negative? What happens then?
Yes. They said the most. I don't know the phrasing for it, but they said the coach that's sitting here has a
Mhm.
lot to do with how much you're progressing. So, what words are you listening to? What words are you forming on yourself? You talked about self doubt. A lot of people exploring imposter syndrome. I'm in this role, I don't know, and they don't feel comfortable being there. All of these things come into play. But
That's fear.
let
Fear.
me
Yeah.
mention one thing because I was going on a thought and I got sidetracked in that thought. Someone mentioned, I remember reading somewhere that said if you watch a child that's trying to walk, so imagine if that child tried to walk and they fell down a couple of times, they said, no more, I'm going to crawl the rest of my life. But they continue to keep getting up and they keep, and I think lots of times as we go through the learning curves of growth and life, we lose that first lesson.
You're absolutely right. But we lose that first lesson is because of the environment, you see. It's because the environment that we are in, it's your people, the people around you, the people you let in your life, everybody who comes in your life or whose lives you come in, you're going to have some sort of an impact on them or they're going to have on you. Now, this is, you need to have intentionally go after the people who are going to have a positive impact on you.
Hmm.
You have to be very intentional in doing that.
Yeah.
And that's how you grow. That's
Mhm.
why the mentors, the coaches, if coaches were no good, then why would even at this age now? Speaking with Mike Tyson is going to have another boxing. Mike Tyson is a legend. He doesn't need a coach. Why does he have a coach? If he
Exactly.
can have a coach, why can't I?
Exactly. There's a guy by the name of Bill Campbell. If anybody wanted to follow Bill, he was like the number one executive CEO coach before he died, and he went to the one of the founders of Microsoft and Google and said, "You need a coach." He said, "Why would I need a coach? I'm already here." He says, "Everybody needs a coach," and he used the metaphor of, but he used Michael Jordan. He said, "Michael Jordan has a coach. He's the best," and he used all these metaphors of linking people who we see as successful but they have a coach on the side. It's not a bad thing in having a coach. Well, I use the term board of directors. I have a board of directors that I bounce things off of. I said, "What do you think about here?" What? Because I don't. Sometimes I just want to know whether anyone else is seeing what I'm seeing. That's my concept. Any thoughts on that? So you talked about having that coach. My metaphor is the board,
Hmm.
people
Hmm.
surrounding me because I want good thoughts. And then again, a lot of times I want you to challenge me to say that's the dumbest idea ever. It's okay.
Yeah. Now, this again, and challenging in terms of challenging, that's wonderful and beautiful. But challenging again comes on to you, right? A coach would challenge you definitely. But now, when if we take it into an environment where you are a successful human being, and all the people who are around you are just the people who are within in your charge, say you are the leader in your charge, and they do not to challenge you because why they don't want to challenge you depends on you again. Are you willing to be challenged? Do you create that psychological safety for them that you know what, I'm a human being, I could learn from anyone and everyone, and I learn from anyone and everyone, so please challenge me. I could be making a mistake, and I'd love to learn from you. So it all comes down to that. And that's why coaches really help, because that's their role, to challenge you and take you out of your comfort zone and make you grow.
Mm, mm, okay. So let's think about. I want to come back to your work.
Mm.
You're a key executive. Known throughout the Middle East. What is your coaching style like for the people that work with you, work for you? How do you capture? How do you take all of your learnings and work with a team of X amount of people? How do you create the psychological safety in your group?
I create a psychological safety by, I know it's a bit cliche, by creating a culture of family. But what do I mean by culture of family? Again, it goes back to psychological safety. For example, whenever I speak with my brother, I let my guard down. I can say
Okay.
whatever I want. I know that he's going to be harsh sometimes. I know that he's going to tell me sometimes that, you are wrong, but I take it with a pinch of salt.
Okay.
And he's right. He wants my own good. So as soon as the people who you are in charge of, as soon as they understand and they know you are genuinely there for them, you are in their service, although they are reporting into you. This is where the difference happens. This is where the trust is built, and this is where you become a compassionate leader, and they actually bond with you, and you could coach them, and they would say anything and everything they have.
Hmm. Hmm. So, in people choosing you as that coach, and I'm sure you coach a lot of people across the globe, how did you develop that? I mean, you took your learnings, you take and put it into a book, and then turn it around and say, okay, how can I reach out? Maybe not at work, but maybe there's a counter executive across, or there's someone else, or it could be me, however it is. How does that approach different from the team I'm working with?
First of all, if I want to coach somebody, say if I'm going to coach somebody or if I'm going to mentor somebody, I'm going to be somebody's mentor, I need to understand what is your purpose. That's the first question that I ask. What is your purpose? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? If I have the expertise or the skills to develop you and help you, I would agree to be a coach or your mentor. But if I don't, then I would most probably refer you to somebody else or to a friend and tell you know what, I'm sorry, but this is not my level of expertise. I always tell them, never ask advice from anyone who you do not want to trade places with. If in a certain particular field, if in a certain particular field, I want Hello? Yeah, sorry. Say for example, I want to be a horse rider. Okay, somebody wants to be the best horse rider there is, and they come to me. I'll ask them, I don't ride horses. Do you want to exchange places with me? No. Then why would I coach you on riding a horse?
Yeah.
You
Mhm.
you understand what I'm saying?
I got it. Yeah, I got it. I got it. So when you look at leaders today in organizations, and we hear about leaders out of control, or leaders say you must do it this way, you must do it this way. There's no flexibility of me as the leader. If you were giving a keynote speech, which I'm sure you do, and the room was full of CEOs, C suites, or whatever it is, what would be your message that you would leave to them? Said, I want you to think about this as you go back to your environments in trying to lead your company to greatness. What would be the key message or key thought?
My key thought would be our message to anyone who leads a lot of people is the chair that we sit on today was somebody else's yesterday and it's going to be somebody else's tomorrow.
Oh,
When you leave, what is the legacy that you want to leave behind?
yeah.
Who are the people you want to develop? Where is your successor? Where is the succession planning? What do you want them to do? How do you want them to carry on your legacy?
Hmm. You're using some powerful metaphors. you know,
Like,
I love the chair. So the chair is temporary. You're sitting here now, but there's someone possibly waiting, or someone else will take this, and then I move to another chair. So when the kids growing up, it was called musical chairs. You go around and then you sit in the chair, and then you get up and do it again. Same thing. I love the metaphors. I love the metaphors. So how do you in your work of banking and insurance, how did that happen? How did that come about? So you got out of university, you got a job, entry level job, working your way up. How do you kind of find your compass to move?
We keep making mistakes at the beginning and we learn from our mistakes. You just don't stop. You make mistakes, you fall, you get up, you fall, you get up, you fall, you get up, you just keep going. Mistakes are good. Mistakes are a learning curve, I call it. They are learners, they're teachers. Never, never be hard on yourself because of any mistake you have made. As long as you are learning, it's fine. It's like when if, what I always use is in terms of experience. I love to learn from other people's experience, like I said. For example, now when I learn from a book, how do I learn from a book? A person who's written a book is most probably has around 20 years of experience. They have poured in their experience in this book. So even if we grasp 1%, just 1% of their experience, now you take that 1%, yeah? So 1% of 20 years is 2.4 months. So it's 240 months divided by yeah, so it's 2.4 months. So 1% is 2.4 months. And if you read only 10 books, times that by 10, that's 24 months. That's 2 years of experience. Yes, so it compounds. So in 5 years' time, you
Yeah.
have your own 1 year of experience plus 2 years of the other experience times five. That's 15 years of experience in 5 years. In 10 in years, it's 30 years of experience. So that's the knowledge gained by these books. It's a phenomenal. People should read more. People should hear more talks, go to more seminars.
As I hear you talk, I think about my travel when I'm leave. I'm travel maybe once a week, and I have a packet that I'm reading. But here's the not challenge I have, but here's what I find enlightening. As I talk to leaders, one of the questions I'll always ask is, so tell me about what you're reading. Tell me something that you read, maybe not from work or whatever it is. What does your reading list look like? And sometimes I get
Okay.
this look reading list. Well, I scan the news. I do this. I watched it, and I said they don't understand the concept that I'm asking. I don't care what it is, but what are you doing to explore beyond your space? So when you talk about leaders, lots of times they're not. They're just going through the motions. A leader, I'm supposed to be one, two, three, but there's no learning coming in from that.
Look, the learning again, what I believe that's why I personally believe is that people say knowledge is power. That's why people read, that's why people listen to the talks and go to the seminars. But for me, it's applicable knowledge. Applicable knowledge is the real power. So if I'm going to read, I should read in my field. I should read in my industry. I should be an expert at that. I should take my strengths and make it stronger. And then I can apply that knowledge. If I cannot apply that knowledge, just to have, knowledge is always good to have, but I can't apply it, then I'm not benefiting from that knowledge. And people around me are not benefiting from it as well.
So you're saying focus in on the vertical that you're in or the space close to that and try and expand within that.
Yeah, I'm saying, what are you going to do with this knowledge? What are you going to do with this knowledge? The knowledge that you're getting, the knowledge that you're gaining, what are you going to do with it? How are you going to give back to the community? How are you going to give back to the people? How are you going to progress in your own life? It's by if we it is there's a very old saying, jack of all trades, master of none. So I
That,
prefer being master of something than jack of all trades.
that was my mother's thing. I said, okay, Ma, I got it. 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 Okay, good, we got that. Yeah. Jack of all trades, master of none. Okay, cool. I want to acknowledge some of our previous Peter Piccinini, who says he was caught by the phrase "Why not?" Fantastic. He also said humility, applicable knowledge. John Self, who's a very dear friend, I was on his show a few weeks ago. He said, "In America, we do the right thing, but only after we have tried everything else." So when we talk about this show, it's about, because I think lots of times with social media, all we see is this here. They see you at the top. They see you as an author, but they don't understand how you started from here and all the detours, left turns, right turns, bad mistake, but you kept pushing forward to get to that piece. And this is why what we try and cover here is that you can talk about failures you've had and how you learn from that, which takes me into my next question. What was a major failure that you run up against and said, what do I do now? And you were able to try to rearrange that and you were able to get back on track. Can you recount one of those stories?
I'd say one of my major failures were me, and it's a bit personal, but I'd share it with you. My major failure was family time. My family time. Sometimes we get distracted with the world, and we forget that we have family, that we take them for granted. Yeah, we take our kids for granted. It's our kids; they're not going to feel bad. So you know what? It's my mom, it's my sister. It doesn't matter. Work comes first. My career is first. Yeah, but after all said and done, these people, we need to be with them. And there's a story that happened. What happened to me is I was actually sitting with my son, and he was speaking to me, and he was so excited. And then suddenly I get a message, an email from my boss, from my CEO. And I look into the message, and my son is talking. He's keeping on. He's going on and on and on and on. And then what I did was, after I finished, it was an issue. So I was focusing on the email. I was not listening to it. I finished. I looked up and I looked at him, and I was like, "Hey, son, okay, go on." He said, "You didn't hear a word, did you?" I was like, he just got up and he walked away. And then, yeah, exactly. And then what happened was he left his basketball team. And till today, I try to never get into that conversation with him because I'm afraid of what he might say.
Oh, I had the same experience as you were walking through that. I was getting flashback because my daughter came downstairs in my office one day, and I could tell by the way she was walking that there was something that was wrong. And she sat there, and I'm working, and she started talking, and I'm doing this, and then she stopped, and I said, "Okay, here's what you're gonna do." What she said? Could you stop? I didn't ask you for it. She said, "Sometimes I want you to just listen." She said, "But you always so consumed with work. You got to answer everything. Stop it." Greatest lesson ever. Harvard
Yes,
degree.
I have a degree.
Harvard degree in learning.
Mhm.
So you look at situations in life. So you talked about the situation with your son, and I think lots of times people don't reflect as to why didn't that work, or why didn't this come out in a better position, or whatever it is. How do you reflect? You have a tough week, and you have meetings, and you have all these things going on. How do you sit back and reflect on the learnings for the week, the non-learnings for the week? I'll never do that again.
So I use this method that I learned. I learned from a book, actually. It's called Deep Work, from Carl Newport. He wrote that book, Deep Work.
Deep,
It's
deep
called
work.
Time Deep Work. Deep Work, yeah. It's called time blocking. Time blocking. So what he says is you have to take 90 minutes of time blocks because the mind cannot focus for more than 90 minutes in one go, and
Okay.
remove all distractions. So what I do, actually, I have in my calendar every day, 6 days a week, I have one time block every day. That's for my learning,
Okay.
that's for my reflection, that's for everything. A 90-minute block every Friday. Actually, I have it for reflection. And the rest of the days, the 5 days, the other 5 days, I have it for my learning and development, my personal learning and development, be it speaking to a mentor, be it speaking to a coach, be it listening to a talk, be it reading a book. So that's how I time block, and I switch off my mobiles. So
Uh,
switch off mobile, switch off all notifications, no distractions.
yeah.
Look,
I
mm,
no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
as per his research, he says if you have one time block of 90 minutes a week, you become 30% more productive that week.
Mm.
Yes. So if we have, say, two time blocks per day, 5 days, that's
Yep.
10 time blocks, that's 300% more productive. Now, I'm not saying it's true. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I have tried it and
It
it
works.
blew me away. It
Yeah,
works.
yeah, it works. That's always the key. But you know what? That reminded me of, I was reading about Warren Buffett does the same thing. Bill Gates does the same thing. A block of time, and I just sit back and I read, I reflect, I do whatever I need to do. Everything's turned off. Do you think that? And this is a thought. Do you think that social media has kind of inhibited that? Because I see people, they're always like this. And I was in the Dubai airport here a couple of months back, and I was walking to my gate, and I saw a family, husband, wife, two kids, and they were all engrossed in a book. And I had to stop and take a look. And I said, you know what? I'm going to approach them because what can they do? I just want to give them a compliment. I went up and I said, excuse me. I said, I don't normally see this. I said, but I think it's great that you've gotten your kids into reading, and you can sit and read and do these things without everybody. You go through the airport, you see families. Everyone is on this. 5 people, and no one is chatting. No one is doing that.
I believe that social media is an addiction. Today, it's an addiction. The phones are an addiction. And I tell my son, I always tell my son, I tell him, listen, son, if you want, because he says, Dad, I have a headache. He constantly has a headache. He cannot focus. So I tell him, if you want to focus, do one thing. And I do that. I personally do that. 1 hour before sleeping, I put my phone away. It's in a different room. I
I
do
do.
not keep it with me. It's in a different room. I put it away. And then as soon as I get up, I don't look at the phone for half an hour. I have my coffee, I take a bath, I get in the car, I I drive away, and once I reach work, that's when I check my first email or message. The world is not going to end if I don't check my phone.
Exactly. It's not the end of the world. I want to go back to a quote
Yeah.
here that John Self said. He says he was interviewing. John is in executive search. He says, I was interviewing a CEO applicant, and he said that his Harvard MBA was not much more than an expensive networking event. I wasn't sure whether he was joking or not. I'm like, whoa, that's powerful. Because I know people that's got these degrees and they're not doing anything with these degrees. So I think lots of times it's connected. If I get the Harvard MBA, if I get the Harvard Law or Stanford engineering degree, I'm going to do all of these things. And a lot of times it just does not work out. So that other piece is missing.
I think you're absolutely right. It's not the degree, again, the experience and learning from other people's experience is
Yeah.
more important than from where do you have your degree and how you apply that experience, and and your strengths, your awareness, and being aware of what is your strength and how you could help others discover their strength and become stronger. You're only as strong as your weakest link. You're only as strong as your weakest link. If you have 5 people, I always say this, if you have 5 people in your team and it's 100%, 100%, 100%, 100%, 50%, guess what? Your strength is 50%. Why 50%?
Yeah.
Because you're going to waste most of the time with this person. You're going to work with him. So instead of delegating, he's delegating upwards. So
Exactly.
that was a wrong hire. And if that person does not have the willingness to develop himself and does not want to be developed, then it's all downhill with him. And you know what? The 4 people who are nice, who are good, who are strong,
Yeah.
they are suffering. And we are taking them for granted now and not looking after them.
Yeah. So their 100% comes down to 90 or 80 or whatever it is. And
Yeah,
it kind of disrupts the flow of the team. But let's go back to the 50% person. You've got someone on your team, they're struggling. You have psychological safety, and you're trying to bring them forward. What is your approach? How do you this problem child? I say problem child, you know what I mean as a metaphor, and try
yeah.
and give them the opportunity to grow. And at a certain point in time, you have to do what you have to do.
Yeah. First of all, we need to understand, is this person willing to go the extra mile? Is he willing to come out of his comfort zone? Is he willing to learn? That's the first thing that we need to do. And we need to have that conversation. People shy away from having such
Yeah.
problematic conversations, let's say. But that's wrong. You as a leader, you need to be really a compassionate leader. You need to put their needs and wants before yours, because without them succeeding, you're not going to succeed. You're not going to succeed. So you need to find their strengths and work on the strengths. Actually, people say work on the weaknesses. I say always work on the strengths, because from strong you can become extremely strong, but from average or from weak you can only become mediocre. So work on their strengths. Let them be aware. Let them see where their blind spots are. And sometimes what I do to bring that comfort or break the tension within the team, what I have done is I've created a meeting, and I call it the Boxers Club. Now I call it the Boxers Club because I love boxing,
Boxing.
but
Okay.
there's no punching, no punching, no hitting anybody, none of that. No, but what happens is we have contenders, and they stand up there, and each person says openly. And now, because we called it the Boxers Club, so each one takes a go. They take a go at Ahmed. They say, Ahmed, we love the way you speak, but you are too fast. We don't understand what you're saying. You use a lot of jargon. So these are things, that whoa. Okay, so next time, bring it down. Calm down. Do not use jargons. So these things, the blind spots in the Boxers Club, because we call it Boxers Club, nobody feels bad
Yeah.
that, I'm here to actually help you develop and see your blind spots. Others around you see it, but they are afraid to tell you sometimes, or they feel uncomfortable, because if I'm going to tell Ron what his blind spots are, he's going to start on me. But
Yeah.
in the Boxers Club, that's what's meant to be. So that's
Okay.
why I started the Boxers Club.
You you know what? You need to do a directory on metaphors, because you've laid a lot of them out here. I mean, I love that Boxers Club concept, because we just kind of in the ring, and we're just talking to try to figure out, what's what. Um, I spoke to a leader the other week, and he was talking about someone on his team that wasn't doing that well, and he said, I'm really afraid to have the conversation. And I said, well, let's take a step back. How long has this been going on? Have you had this offline conversation? I call it offline conversation, that you could have been talking about something else over coffee or lunch or whatever it is, and you just kind of slid something in there to have a conversation. And he said, well, no, the conversation is always about work. I said, so what do you know about this person beyond that? And all they had with this person, who was a so-called problem person, was just the work atmosphere. They only dealt with 9 to 5. They didn't understand that maybe the kid is, maybe have a son who's playing softball or whatever. They didn't understand the whole person. And once you built that, you can have that conversation, and it's an adult to adult conversation. And he was afraid of a confrontation kind of, and I'm like, no, maybe I'm missing something.
No, you're absolutely right. But that's when, and like I said, what happens is when you do not have that regular meetings, those regular, one-on-ones. One-on-one is very important. Now, what happens is I always say you have to be, as a leader, you have to be a compassionate leader, but you have to also be fair and firm at the same time. You have to be fair and firm. Now, people shy away from being fair and firm because they have not had those meetings, they have not had those one-on-ones, they have not taken you through your journey throughout the year. They have not sat with you and told you, Ron, you're making a mistake here. This is where you need to do. This is what you. They don't take that time because we're all busy individuals.
Yeah.
But by not blocking in that time and not planning it, at the end of the year, what happens? Now I have Ron and I have Ahmed.
Yeah.
Ahmed does an excellent job and Ron doesn't. Yeah, Ron doesn't, but I don't want to have that confrontation with Ron. So what I do is I rate them the same. Oh, both of you all are good. What
Yeah.
happens to Ahmed?
Yeah.
Ahmed
I,
gets demotivated. He
yeah.
starts becoming like Ron. He stops working. And slowly, exactly, everyone in that organization becomes like that. So
Exactly.
a leader's main job is, it's the people you are in charge of. You have to really be compassionate about their growth. You have to look at it like, I'm not having a difficult conversation with you, but I want to know and understand what's stopping your growth. Maybe it's something at home.
Yeah.
Maybe once I remember there was a female who told me, Ahmed, I do not want the promotion that you gave me. And she was an excellent worker. I told her, how come? More salary, more? She said, yeah, but my previous job was back office and I could do that working even from home. I have a toddler at home. I'm a single mother. So now the promotion that you're giving me, I can't miss my child.
Yes.
So, that makes sense. That makes sense. And she was brave enough to say that to me. Somebody else will be quiet, will take the job, and then they will start dipping.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
then we will say, yeah, that's a bad employee, and I made a bad judgment call. I did make a bad judgment call because I didn't know everything about that person.
Yeah. My metaphor for that is learn the 360 person. The 180 person is 9 to 5. I understand 9 to 5. What she gave you was outside of the realm of 9 to 5. The backstory is what I'm dealing with. And maybe my child is, a gentleman I spoke with, his child was blind. And he was dealing with that, the constraints of that in the country he was in, didn't have the services. So he was doing great work, but he had all of this on his mind from the other side. And so when we talk about the methods you're using, you're talking about bringing the whole person into the conversation, not just the work person. Is that kind of a good analogy of what you were saying?
Yes, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay, cool. So as we begin the process of closing out, if you look back on your career and legacy, what are you most proud of?
Look, first of all, if I'd like to identify pride, identify pride. Pride is something that you're happy that you have done and you want to share with the world.
Yeah.
So I'm most proud of my son,
Okay.
and how he's grown up to be a great man. My book, of course, that was a real challenge, and writing that book, and any individual that I have, even had a small amount to do with their growth or their development, I'm very proud of that. By seeing others succeed, I get happy.
Okay, cool. It comes from that. One of the goals of the show, and I mentioned this earlier, is we try and have leaders tell the whole story, not just the so-called 180 story. Oh my God, that's great to have that. And you gave us so many crooks and turns and all those kinds of things. And this was the reason that we do the CEO series every Friday. So people that are listening, please share across the globe. And the show is global. So I want to ask you, as we begin to close out, would you like to leave with the audience? I thank you, first of all, for making the time to be on the show. But what would you like to leave with the audience as we close out?
Well, first of all, thank you. It was an honor. It was an honor to be on your show. I'd like to tell the audience, find your ladders and start early, and do not listen to the naysayers. Just keep going at it, and you can do it. You can do it.
Yeah.
Why not?
I call it turning it off. And you keep going from there. So thank you very much. I need you to hang on as we close out. I got a few things I want to discuss offline. So I'll see you in a bit. So thank you, everyone. Subscribe to the CEO series every Friday at 5 p.m. Dubai time, 9 a.m. New York time. So thank you, everyone. See you next week.
Take the CEO series with you anywhere, anytime. All episodes are now available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and major streaming platforms. It's not just an interview. It's a masterclass in leadership.